Today, we're so excited to be joined with Jason Liu, who recently joined the OpenAI Developer Experience team. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
How have you seen speed change accessibility for coding?
I think the biggest one is the fact that these models have gotten so much faster and so much smarter that you can completely control the text editor in a very real-time way simply through your voice, right? So I have a bunch of different kinds of hand issues where I can't type as much. And even just fixing small typos or changing the formatting of some documents, that takes some effort. And with something like Spark, these can still happen instantaneously. I would say a year ago, the way I would use text-to-speech was I would probably record a video of me describing the problem, turn that prompt into a design document using ChatGPT, and then copy paste that into some kind of coding agent, because I really had one shot to get it right, because I know this thing would run off for a long time. Now I feel much more comfortable just having short bursts of requests. Oh, fix this, change that, do this one more thing. And that is primarily because of the speed of these models. Now these edits can happen within 2 or 3 seconds, rather than knowing that once I kick this off, I should go get a coffee and come back and hope the code is correct.
What are other kinds of things that you could build with zero latency that you couldn't before?
I think the biggest changes are around how I think about delegation, right? With these longer models, I've always thought about tasks that I could kick off, where maybe after a couple of meetings, I can come back and check in on how things are going. Now with Spark, there's a whole different set of automations and delegations I can do that happen between meetings, right? Answering different questions, shooting off an email, looking at what's going on Slack. These are all things that I want to happen in less than a minute or not at all. When you have models that can do things within 5 or 8 minutes, you may as well do it yourself.
You built Instructor, the library that OpenAI cited as an inspiration for structured outputs. So you went from influencing OpenAI from the outside to now being on the inside. I'd love to hear about the experience of what OpenAI has been like for you and what outsiders might not realize about how OpenAI works.
I think the biggest surprise for me is how much I would depend on the Slack MCP server. We mostly run our company through a bunch of different Slacks and different kinds of ChatGPT integrations. And one of the first things I was recommended to set up was just like the Slack MCP server. I said, oh, why? And within like the first 5 days, I now have all these different automations helping me understand what's going on in the business. It's been kind of fun to sort of think about how we can build different Slack bots and chat bots to understand how to actually make sense of a large organization like this. The second thing really is just how much of the company has adopted Codex. The Codex app, at least, has only been around for maybe a couple of months, and a large part of the company now has been, completely Codex built. I recently used like 1 billion tokens this past week. I'm not even the top 100 users of Codex.
Earlier, you mentioned that you're at any given time running maybe 10 to 20 Codex sessions. What are each of those sessions doing? And I'd also be curious, like, how are you choosing which models you're running those sessions with?
A lot of the automations really is around understanding like where I am in the workplace. Since I'm so new, I don't really know like what kind of projects folks are working on. And so a lot of my automations really is just taking a look at what's happening in the company, right? I have automations that are tracking different projects, different launches, different things that my manager or I need to focus on in the next couple of weeks, and those have been incredibly helpful. And anytime I need to do a lot of research, that's where a model like Spark really comes in, right? If I have a question I want to ask, I might just open the app, spin up Spark and say, oh, when was this going to launch? What is this person's priorities? And I'll be able to get an answer in a couple of seconds. If I, turn on GPT-5 X high for every task, I might get pulled into the next meeting before I get an answer. And so much of this information retrieval has been made incredibly interactive just by using something like Spark.
I love that you also included a lot of non-technical use cases, focusing more on like product or internal use cases versus coding, which people are used to. So within OpenAI, what are some of the top non-technical use cases that you see people using Codex and Codex Spark for?
A lot of it has been around just interacting with other applications. One of the big things is editing slides. Before, it might be the case that GPT-5 could build something interactive like this, but I would make a request and it would take 1 minute or 2 minutes and I'll have to review the code. Now, Spark is so fast that I just have to look at the slide output itself, right? Every time I make a request, the code changes, the slides are rebuilt within 2 or 3 seconds, and now it feels more like I'm interacting with a designer. Move this to the left, fix some spacing. I don't even have to look at the code ever. I've been making a bunch of video games recently, and now I'm only ever playing the game. right? If the UI looks weird, I'll just tell it and the UI changes. It's been very interactive and very fun to play around with.
Can you walk me through step by step, like how you are building those slides and maybe how you're using the models?
Right now, I use a library called SlideV, which is just like a way of defining slides. Really now, when I want to add more information, I'll just hit the record button on the Codex app and I'll just save my presentation. And within 1 second, the entire slide deck is created. If I have some feedback, I'll just record again. Oh, slide 7 has too many words. Break this up into 2 slides. Also edit the speaker notes. And again, these slides will just update. And now sort of I'm able to go from just what I have in my mind directly to a presentation pretty quickly. This is mostly Spark because I already know what I want to say. Like the words I say are already in my prompt, and I just want to have a very interactive experience in building these things out.
Looking at everything that's happening now with Spark and fast inference, what is the next thing that you think people are sleeping on?
The thing I'm personally the most excited about is actually the real-time API. Before joining, I have not really played around with it. But as we get better and faster real-time APIs that allow you to do things like function calls, I'm just more excited about what the voice can control, right? I would love a world where I can like control my browser, even Codex through voice.
Instructor became the de facto tool for structured outputs. How do you think about building tools that developers will actually adopt?
I think the biggest mistake is when you're building a tool that uses AI, I think many folks think, okay, well, AI can do everything, so let me build a library that can do everything. Right? And so what you get is like a bunch of different random tools that don't do anything well. At that time, my goal really was to build a very sharp knife, right? It's like, I just want to get like one good kitchen knife that people can rely on and use deterministically. I think things might be different now that AI actually is very good at many things, but my philosophy has really just been to do one thing well and see where that goes.